everyone.
Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me, because I don't know where this needs to be.
As close to your face as possible. See how mine is?
I know, but like. Okay, then I gotta sit like right here. Doesn't come any closer.
Oh, hold on. I'll fix it. That can be easier. And hello, Kayla. Hello, Ren.
Is that better?
Uh, Araya, yes. Thank you for the suggestion.
What suggestion? Oh,
It was her comment that
Spinner's End. Hmm. Tis a good chapter. I I will be reading from the American edition today. Hope that's okay with y'all. Hello, Katie. So glad you could join us. Hello, Timothy. Welcome. I'm talking into this mic because Biggs is fixing the other one, so hopefully you can hear me while I look ridiculous. Ridiculous, said Remus as he then told everyone to fuck off because he hated them, but really he didn't, and he was in love with Sirius's neck and cheekbones and
And hey,
I'm sorry, that was all the young dudes. I apologize.
you watch
That's
it.
not canon.
He was obsessed with his wrists.
Oh, yes, his slim, pale, dainty wrists. I apologize.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Mike.
Behind
Yes,
the scenes
behind the
action.
scenes.
Yeah. I think there's toothpaste on this hoodie. Luckily, hopefully no one can see that.
There's a reason why you're close. So, Spinner's End. I know you mentioned this. Where does this rank on like your favorite chapters?
Hi.
Really? I thought I could have sworn you mentioned this one before.
It's a good one, but I don't know. It's not like an all-timer for me. Like all-time top 10 chapters, like I don't. It's up in the top 10. King's Cross. Christmas on the Closed Ward is another one of my favorites.
Is that the one with Lockhart when we meet him again? That's one of my favorites too.
We also meet like Neville's parents.
Yeah, but Lockhart.
Okay.
Nice haircut, thank you. Wish I could cut my hair, letting it grow right now. Part of a bet with my daughter. Oh, what's the bet? Who can grow their hair the fastest?
After the burial is good. I'm trying to think of like top 10s. It's good. Sorry, I'm like Creature's Tale is such a good chapter too. House of Gaunt, of course, got to be in the top 10.
Oh,
with Gaunt.
absolutely. Well, that's what we were originally going to do this week, and then you just didn't get everything you wanted to
Yeah, I
done.
didn't get everything together. My counterpart didn't get everything together. It's fine. It's okay.
So, shooting for next week's live stream will probably be House of Gaunt. It's going to be super in depth because you've been. No? Huh? Am I wrong?
I want to do it justice, so don't promise anything for next week. 10 chapters out of 198. Five. Yeah. Top 10 favorite chapters. It's really hard. It's really hard to like come up with a top 10. The Cave is another one that's so good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Prince's Tale. Ah. The Potions Master. Ah. Just so many good chapters.
Fair enough.
Just a lot of really good ones.
10 chapters out of
Lola.
198. Is there 198? Yeah, I guess so. Somehow that seems low. I thought there was more, but I guess not.
No, because the biggest book has 38 chapters.
No, okay, fair enough. I thought what's the really long one? Order of the Phoenix or Half Blood Prince? One of those. I thought they had over 40.
No.
At least one of them.
Order of the Phoenix is the longest, and I believe it has 38.
Okay, close enough.
Right? Yeah, The Prince's Tale, The Forest Again, and King's Cross. They're just so good, and they're all in sequence with each other too. They're just like boom, 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 right in a row. But they're so good. I remember reading that entire section for the first time and just being so overwhelmed in every way. Hence why Deathly Hallows is my favorite book.
That's fair.
I also think it's just Rowling at her best.
Okay.
I'm
I don't think I really have a favorite chapter yet.
I don't think
I don't
you've
know.
read the books enough times.
That's what I mean.
I want to hear it. No, I want to hear it right now, Tim. You tell us right now. What's your controversial top pick? I want to know.
Yeah, drop it now because
We're going to read in a minute, so...
And not to mention, we're going to want to discuss the chapter afterwards, and if it's anything like last time, we're going to get way off topic the entire time and barely discuss the chapter.
Yep. So, the chapter that Tom is talking about is Flight of the Prince, when Snape reveals that he's the Half-Blood Prince. That's Flight of the Prince. Hi, Anna.
Oh, okay. Is that also when he flies through the window and leaves the cartoon imprint?
Jesus, that's the wrong book.
Oh, okay. I just Flight of the Prince and then...
No, that's a wrong... Oh, my God. Gotta read these again. God, it's not even the right book. Ooh.
Sounded like a mega nerd.
I am a mega nerd, in case you haven't noticed. 37, Order of the Phoenix.
The Lost Prophecy? Isn't that the one where they go to...
No, that's the one where Dumbledore and Harry like sit and
hash it out.
I think.
The one where the
the Lost Prophecy.
Jim K did that one illustration that you really liked.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The Lost Prophecy. It's a good chapter. It's a good Harry Dumbledore chapter. Like, it's a really good Harry Dumbledore chapter. So yeah. All right, let me put that over there.
All of Voldy's memories in 6 are so good. Yeah.
Dumbledore explains the prophecy and explains his old man mistakes, and it's heartbreaking and heartwarming because we see how much Dumbledore cares and loves Harry. Yeah. I feel like that's true. When you go back and reread that chapter, when you reread the Lost Prophecy, knowing everything and then reading everything that Dumbledore is saying to him, you can really feel the heartache and tension of Dumbledore wanting to tell Harry, but not telling Harry everything, but finally confessing. It's very fraught with emotion upon a reread. When you read it the first time, you're just like, oh, information. Now we know.
Maybe that's why I don't have a favorite yet. Maybe I just need to reread them. I mean, we've reread the chapters sporadically. But
Yeah.
I think I just need to go through and reread it because, I mean, at the first time through, you're just kind of going with the story,
and you're trying to like theorize, and you're trying to figure it out, and you're just like, who is Sirius Black, and what's the thing, and Lupin, and blah blah blah, and who put Harry's name in the goblet, and this Umbridge bitch is so annoying, like. Ugh. Then you go back through and you reread, knowing everything, and then so much more comes to the surface when you go back and you read it again. And I have read it like 12 times at least.
Dumby is the embodiment of the burden of wisdom. I would agree with that. Yeah. He even kind of says it. When I do make mistakes, they're usually big ones.
Because I'm me.
Exactly. Yeah. So absolutely. And
it does Dumbledore set up the next two books. He comes clean, but he doesn't fully complete. Yeah. Like when you reread, the struggle Dumbledore is feeling throughout the series is a lot more palpable when you go back and reread. But also when you go back and reread, there's a whole other level of like Snape that you uncover. When you go back and you reread, you understand Snape's whole deal. It adds a whole other layer to it as well. Oh, thank you.
Hey, Mika. Thank you. Glad you like the channel.
Hello, Doda. Hi, Doda. Hi, Doda. Did the Doda want to come up with the Doda? Would you want to be the Doda? For the baby Doda. The Doda is here. With the baby Doda.
Yeah, the movies just didn't do the story like real justice.
Oh, Doda, you doing it. Don't do that. Don't do that, Doda.
I was gonna say.
Don't do that, Doda.
I won't be able to speak here in a minute. Rip my mic out. So should we jump in?
Sure, but you gotta take over what I'm doing right now.
I got her.
'Cause she's feeling that right now. Okay. All right. Let's do Chapter 2 from the Half-Blood Prince. Maybe, if I can see. Chapter 2, Spinner's End. This is right after the freaking Prime Minister chapter, which is so good. Okay, sorry. Many miles away, the chilly mist that had pressed against the Prime Minister's windows drifted over a dirty river. Better. Many miles away, the chilly mist that had pressed against the Prime Minister's windows drifted over a dirty river that wound between overgrown, rubbish-strewn banks. An immense chimney, relic of a disused mill, reared up, shadowy and ominous. There was no sound apart from the whisper of the black water, and no sign of life apart from a scrawny fox that had slunk down the bank to nose hopefully at some old fish and chips wrappings in the tall grass. But then, with a very faint pop, a slim, hooded figure appeared out of thin air on the edge of the river.
The fox froze, wary eyes fixed upon this strange new phenomenon. The figure seemed to take its bearings for a few moments, then set off with light, quick strides, its dark cloak rustling over the grass. With a second and louder pop, another hooded figure materialized. "Wait!" The harsh cry startled the fox, now crouching almost flat in the undergrowth. It leapt from its hiding place and up the bank. There was a flash of green light, a yelp, and the fox fell back to the ground, dead. The second figure turned over the animal with its toe. "Just a fox," said a woman's voice dismissively from under the hood. "I thought perhaps an aura. Sissy, wait!" But a quarry, who had paused and looked back at the flash of light, was already scrambling up the bank the fox had just fallen down. "Sissy! Narcissa! Listen to me!" The second woman caught the first and seized her arm, but the other wrenched it away. "Go back, Bella. You must listen to me." "I've listened already. I've made my decision. Leave me alone." The woman named Narcissa gained the top of the bank, where a line of old railings separated the river from a narrow cobbled street. The other woman, Bella, followed at once. Side by side they stood looking across the road at the rows and rows of dilapidated brick houses, their windows dull and blind in the darkness. "He lives here?" asked Bella in a voice of contempt. "Here? In this muggle dunghill? We must be the first of our kind to ever set foot—" But Narcissa was not listening. She had slipped through a gap in the rusty railings and was already hurrying across the road. "Sissy, wait!" Bella followed, her cloak streaming behind, and saw Narcissa darting through an alley between the houses into a second, almost identical street. Some of the street lamps were broken. The two women were running between patches of light and deep darkness. The pursuer caught up with her prey just as she turned another corner, this time succeeding in catching hold of her arm and swinging her round so they faced each other. "Sissy, you cannot do this. You can't trust him. The Dark Lord trusts him, doesn't he? The Dark Lord is, I believe, mistaken," Bella panted, and her eyes gleamed momentarily under her hood as she looked round to check that they were indeed alone. "In any case, we were told not to speak of the plan to anyone. This is a betrayal of the Dark Lord's—" "Let go, Bella," snarled Narcissa, and she drew a wand from beneath her cloak, holding it threateningly in the other's face. Bella merely laughed. "Sissy, your own sister? You wouldn't—" "There is nothing I wouldn't do any more," Narcissa breathed, a note of hysteria in her voice, and as she brought down the wand like a knife, there was another flash of light. Bella let go of her sister's arm as though burned. "Narcissa!" But Narcissa had rushed ahead. Rubbing her hand, her pursuer followed again, keeping her distance now, as they moved deeper into the deserted labyrinth of brick houses. At last, Narcissa hurried up a street named Spinner's End, over which the towering mill chimney seemed to hover like a giant admonitory finger.
So I just noticed something. I want your opinion on this. So it just said that Bellatrix's hand let go as if burnt. Mm-hmm. Last time we saw that happen was with Quirrell because of the love magic put on Harry. And in this case...
No, Narcissa did a spell.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that because Quirrell did had the love magic happen. And in this case, the reason why Narcissa is doing this is because of her mother's love to protect Draco.
No,
I didn't know if that was like
it's a spell
nod.
I mean, it could be a little nod.
I didn't think her hand actually burnt. I thought it was just,
Narcissa, deliberately, slashes her wand in the air, and then Bella is like, bah!
Okay. Just saying.
Although, I don't know. Maybe I'll bring up this point later, actually. I'll wait. Her footsteps echoed on the cobbles as she passed boarded and broken windows until she reached the very last house, where a dim light glimmered through the curtains in a downstairs room. She had knocked on the door before Bella, cursing under her breath, had caught up. Together they stood waiting, panting slightly, breathing in the smell of the dirty river that was carried to them on the night breeze. After a few seconds, they heard movement behind the door and it opened a crack. A sliver of a man could be seen looking out at them. A man with long black hair parted in curtains round a sallow face and black eyes. Narcissa threw back her hood. She was so pale that she seemed to shine in the darkness. The long blonde hair streaming down her back gave her the look of a drowned person. Oh my god, I want to say... Alright, we'll wait. We'll wait.
You can say it.
Alright, so this whole chapter is very much reminding me of the myth of Echo and Narcissus.
I mean, isn't Narcissa kind of named after
Narcissus? But this whole thing about how she's so determined to get to Snape, it's like an obsession almost. And Narcissus's whole thing is that he like looks at himself in the pool and he just like can't stop looking at himself, whatever. I just feel like this whole thing kind of reeks of that myth, the single-minded obsession of getting to Snape and getting him to do this thing, and then like she looks like a drowned person. Like Echo's whole thing is that she's in love with him, but he'll never want to be with her because he's in love with himself. Like,
yeah,
just there's a lot of Greek mythology going on in this chapter here.
No, I could definitely see it. Because then he stays by the pool and just looks at himself until he turns into a... What type of flower does he turn into?
I don't remember.
A love-me-not or something like that?
Forget-me-not, you mean?
Forget-me-not?
I didn't grab my phone, so I don't know.
It doesn't matter right now.
Narcissa, said the man, opening the door a little wider so that the light fell upon her and her sister too. What a pleasant surprise! Severus, she said in a strained whisper. May I speak to you? It's urgent. But of course. He stood back to allow her to pass him into the house. Her still hooded sister followed without invitation. Snape, she said curtly as she passed him. Bellatrix, he replied, his thin mouth curling into a slightly mocking smile as he closed the door with a snap behind them. They had stepped directly into a tiny sitting room, which had the feeling of a dark, padded cell. The walls were completely covered in books, most of them bound in old black or brown leather. A threadbare sofa, an old armchair, and a rickety table stood grouped together in a pool of dim light cast by a candle-filled lamp hung from the ceiling. The place had an air of neglect, as though it was not usually inhabited. Snape gestured Narcissa to the sofa. She threw off her cloak, cast it aside, and sat down, staring at her white and trembling hands clasped in her lap. Bellatrix lowered her hood more slowly. Dark as her sister was fair, with heavily lidded eyes and a strong jaw, she did not take her gaze from Snape as she moved to stand behind Narcissa. Just want to say, I think it's very interesting that they describe Snape's living room as a padded cell. I think it's a prison of his own making.
I think Dumbledore may have had a role to play in that.
I think Snape is perpetually punishing himself for the sin he cannot forgive himself for. Therefore, he is further punishing himself by maintaining this space, imprisoning himself there.
Maybe. I mean, I I just think it's like that because it says there's like an air of...
He doesn't go there often either, but I also think it's interesting that they describe it as a prison.
Well, we also know that he was like abused as a child.
Yeah, so there's also that too.
Yeah, so I'm sure he doesn't like to be there with all those memories lingering.
So, what can I do for you? Snape asked, settling himself into the armchair opposite the two sisters. We are alone, aren't we? Narcissa asked quietly. Yes, of course. Well, Wormtail's here, but we're not counting vermin, are we? He pointed his wand at the wall of books behind him, and with a bang, a hidden door flew open, revealing a narrow staircase upon which a small man stood frozen. As you have clearly realized, Wormtail, we have guests, said Snape lazily. The man crept, hunchbacked, down the last few steps and moved into the room. He had small, watery eyes, a pointed nose, and wore an unpleasant simper. His left hand was caressing his right, which looked as though it was encased in a bright silver glove. "Narcissa!" he said in a squeaky voice. "And Bellatrix! How charming! Wormtail will get us drinks, if you'd like them," said Snape, "and then he will return to his bedroom." Wormtail winced as though Snape had thrown something at him. "I am not your servant," he squeaked, avoiding Snape's eye. "Really? I was under the impression that a Dark Lord placed you here to assist me." "To assist, yes, but not to make you drinks and clean your house." "I had no idea, Wormtail, that you were craving more dangerous assignments," said Snape silkily. "That can be easily arranged. I shall speak to the Dark Lord." "I can speak to him myself if I want to." "Of course you can," said Snape, sneering. "But in the meantime, bring us drinks. Some of the elf-made wine will do." Wormtail hesitated for a moment, looking as though he might argue, but then turned and headed through a second hidden door. They heard banging and a clinking of glasses. Within seconds he was back, bearing a dusty bottle and 3 glasses upon a tray. He dropped these on the rickety table and scurried from their presence, slamming the book-covered door behind him. Snape poured out 3 glasses of blood-red wine and handed 2 of them to the sisters. Narcissa murmured a word of thanks, while Bellatrix said nothing, but continued to glower at Snape. They did not seem to discompose him. On the contrary, he seemed rather amused. "The Dark Lord," he said, raising his glass and draining it. The sisters copied him. Snape refilled their glasses. As Narcissa took her second drink, she said in a rush, "Severus, I am sorry to come here like this, but I had to see you. I think you are the only person who can help me." Snape held up a hand to stop her, then pointed his wand again at the concealed staircase door. There was a loud bang and a squeal, followed by the sound of Wormtail scurrying back up the stairs. "My apologies," said Snape. "He has lately taken to listening at doors. I don't know what he means by it. You were saying, Narcissa?"
Snape knows all about listening at doors.
This also
has over on him.
This also has some very, very hardcore book 2 paralleling going on.
It does?
Well, in the second chapter of book 2 is when Dobby shows up at Harry's house and Vernon is entertaining guests and doesn't want Harry to
Oh, and he tells Harry to go to his room.
Yeah,
and just told Wormtail to go to his room.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I
yeah.
see it.
And Dobby just keeps messing it up, and yeah.
And they're drinking elf-made wine.
Elf-made wine, another callback to Dobby right there.
think it's fascinating that Snape lives in a place that's just as greasy as he is, or rather described as such.
Wow, Tom. Okay, shots fired.
I mean, he's got to get that grease from somewhere.
The only time I approve of Snape bullying someone.
Is that the only time elves are mentioned? Don't remember seeing them in the movie or described in the books.
It's house elves. It's like house elf.
Yeah, I think it's house elves.
Yeah.
That's what I would assume, because I don't think there's any other version of elves would be found in Lord of the Rings.
It's house elves. Yeah.
Okay.
Severus, I know I ought not to be here. I have been told to say nothing to anyone, but then you ought to hold your tongue, snarled Bellatrix, particularly in present company. Present company? Repeated Snape sardonically. And what am I to understand about that, Bellatrix? That I don't trust you, Snape, as you very well know. Narcissa let out a noise that might have been a dry sob and covered her face with her hands. Snape set his glass down upon the table and sat back again, his hands upon the arms of his chair, smiling into Bellatrix's glowering face. Narcissa, I think we ought to hear what Bellatrix is bursting to say. It will save tedious interruptions. Well, continue, Bellatrix, said Snape. Why is it that you do not trust me? 100 reasons, she said loudly, striding out from behind the sofa to slam her glass upon the table. Where to start? Where were you when the Dark Lord fell? Why did you never make any attempt to find him when he vanished? What have you been doing all these years that you've lived in Dumbledore's pocket? Why did you stop the Dark Lord procuring the Sorcerer's Stone? Why did you not return at once when the Dark Lord was reborn? Where were you a few weeks ago when we battled to retrieve the prophecy for the Dark Lord? And why, Snape, is Harry Potter still alive when you have had him at your mercy for 5 years? She paused, her chest rising and falling rapidly, the colour high in her cheeks. Behind her, Narcissa sat motionless, her face still hidden in her hands. Snape smiled. Before I answer you... Oh, yes, Bellatrix, I am going to answer. You can carry my words back to the others who whisper behind my back and carry false tales of my treachery to the Dark Lord. Before I answer you, I say... Let me ask a question in turn. Do you really think that the Dark Lord has not asked me each and every one of these questions? And do you really think that, had I not been able to give satisfactory answers, I would be sitting here talking to you? She hesitated. I know he believes you, but... You think he is mistaken, or that I have somehow hoodwinked him? Fooled the Dark Lord, the greatest wizard, the most accomplished legilimens the world has ever seen? Bellatrix said nothing, but looked for the first time a little discomfited. Snape did not press the point. He picked up his drink again and sipped it, and continued. You ask where I was when the Dark Lord fell. I was where he ordered me to be, at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, because he wished me to spy upon Albus Dumbledore. You know, I presume, that it was on the Dark Lord's orders that I took up that post. She nodded almost imperceptibly and then opened her mouth, but Snape forestalled her. You ask why I did not attempt to find him when he vanished. For the very same reason that Avery, Yaxley, the Carrows, Greyback, Lucius... He inclined his head slightly to Narcissa. And many others did not attempt to find him. I believed him finished. I am not proud of it. I was wrong. But there it is. If he had not forgiven we who lost faith at that time, he would have very few followers left. "He'd have me," said Bellatrix passionately. "I, who spent many years in Azkaban for him." "Yes, indeed. Most admirable," said Snape in a bored voice. "Of course, you weren't a lot of use to him in prison, but the gesture was undoubtedly fine." "Gesture!" she shrieked. In her fury, she looked slightly mad. "While I endured Dementors, you remained at Hogwarts, comfortably playing Dumbledore's pet." "Not quite," said Snape calmly. "He wouldn't give me the Defense Against the Dark Arts job, you know. Seemed to think it might, bring about a relapse. Tempt me into my old ways." "That was your sacrifice for the Dark Lord, not to teach your favorite subject?" she jeered. "Why did you stay there all that time, Snape? Still spying on Dumbledore for a master you believe dead?" "Hardly," said Snape, "although the Dark Lord is pleased that I never deserted my post. I had 16 years of information on Dumbledore to give him when he returned, a rather more useful welcome-back present than endless reminiscences of how unpleasant Azkaban is." "But you stayed—" "Yes, Bellatrix, I stayed," said Snape, betraying a hint of impatience for the first time. "I had a comfortable job that I preferred to a stint in Azkaban. They were rounding up the Death Eaters, you know. Dumbledore's protection kept me out of jail. It was most convenient, and I used it. I repeat, the Dark Lord does not complain that I stayed, so I do not see why you do." I think you next wanted to know," he pressed on a little more loudly, for Bellatrix showed every sign of interrupting, "why I stood between the Dark Lord and the Philosopher's Stone. That is easily answered. He did not know whether he could trust me. He thought, like you, that I had turned from faithful Death Eater to Dumbledore's stooge. He was in a pitiable condition, very weak, sharing the body of a mediocre wizard. He did not dare reveal himself to a former ally, if that ally might turn him over to Dumbledore or the Ministry. I deeply regret that he did not trust me. He would have returned to power 3 years sooner. As it was, I saw only greedy and unworthy Quirrell attempting to steal the stone, and I admit, I did all I could to thwart him." Bellatrix's mouth twisted as though she'd taken an unpleasant dose of medicine. "But you didn't return when he came back. You didn't fly back to him at once when you felt the dark mark burn." "Correct. I returned 2 hours later. I returned on Dumbledore's orders." "On Dumbledore's?" she began in tones of outrage. "Think," said Snape, impatient again. "Think. By waiting 2 hours, just 2 hours, I ensured that I could remain at Hogwarts as a spy. By allowing Dumbledore to think that I was only returning to the Dark Lord's side because I was ordered to, I've been able to pass information on Dumbledore and the Order of the Phoenix ever since. Consider, Bellatrix. The Dark Mark had been growing stronger for months. I knew he must be about to return, or the Death Eaters knew. I had plenty of time to think about what I wanted to do, to plan my next move, to escape like Karkaroff, didn't I? The Dark Lord's initial displeasure at my lateness vanished entirely, I assure you, when I explained that I had remained faithful, although Dumbledore thought I was his man. Yes, the Dark Lord thought that I had left him forever, but he was wrong." "But what use have you been?" sneered Bellatrix. "What useful information have we had from you?" "My information has been conveyed directly to the Dark Lord," said Snape. "If he chooses not to share it with you, He shares everything with me, said Bellatrix, firing up at once. He calls me his most loyal, his most faithful. Does he? Said Snape, his voice delicately inflected to suggest his disbelief. Does he still, after the fiasco at the Ministry? That was not my fault, said Bellatrix, flushing. The Dark Lord has, in the past, entrusted me with his most precious. If Lucius hadn't... Don't you dare blame my husband, said Narcissa, in a low and deadly voice, looking up at her sister. There is no point in apportioning blame, said Snape smoothly. What is done is done. But not by you, said Bellatrix furiously. No, you were once again absent while the rest of us ran dangers, were you not, Snape? My orders were to remain behind, said Snape. Perhaps you disagree with the Dark Lord. Perhaps you think that Dumbledore would have not noticed if I had joined forces with the Death Eaters to fight the Order of the Phoenix. And, forgive me, you speak of dangers. You were facing 6 teenagers. Were you not? They were joined, as you very well know, by half of the Order before long, snarled Bellatrix. And while we are on the subject of the Order, you still claim you cannot reveal the whereabouts of their headquarters, don't you? I am not the secret keeper. I cannot speak the name of the place. You understand how the enchantment works, I think. The Dark Lord is satisfied with the information I have passed to him on the Order. It led, as you have perhaps guessed, to the recent capture and murder of Emmeline Vance, and it certainly helped dispose of Sirius Black, though I give you full credit for finishing him off. He inclined his head and toasted her. Her expression did not soften. You are avoiding my very last question, Snape. Harry Potter. You could have killed him at any point in these past 5 years. You have not done it. Why? Have you discussed this matter with the Dark Lord? Asked Snape. Lately I am asking you, Snape. If I had murdered Harry Potter, the Dark Lord could have not used his blood to regenerate, making him invincible. You claim you foresaw his use of the boy, she jeered. I do not claim it. I had no idea of his plans. I have already confessed that I thought the Dark Lord dead. I am merely trying to explain why the Dark Lord is not sorry that Potter survived, at least until a year ago. But why did you keep him alive? Have you not understood me? It was only Dumbledore's protection that was keeping me out of Azkaban. Do you disagree that murdering his favourite student might have turned him against me? But there was more to it than that. I should remind you that when Potter first arrived at Hogwarts, there were still many stories circulating about him. Rumours that he himself was a great dark wizard, which was how he had survived the Dark Lord's attack. Indeed, many of the Dark Lord's old followers thought that Potter might be a standard around which we could all rally once more. I was curious, I admit it, and not at all inclined to murder him the moment he set foot in the castle. Of course, it became apparent to me very quickly that he had no extraordinary talent at all. He has fought his way out of a number of tight corners by a simple combination of sheer luck and more talented friends. He is mediocre to the last degree, though as obnoxious and self-satisfied as was his father before him. I have done my utmost to have him thrown out of Hogwarts, where I believe he scarcely belongs, but kill him, or allow him to be killed in front of me? I would have been a fool to risk it with Dumbledore close at hand. And through all this we are supposed to believe Dumbledore has never suspected you? Asked Bellatrix. He has no idea of your true allegiance. He trusts you implicitly still. I have played my part well, said Snape, and you overlook Dumbledore's greatest weakness. He has to believe the best of people. I spun him a tale of deepest remorse when I joined his staff, fresh from my Death Eater days, and he embraced me with open arms, though, as I say, never allowing me nearer the dark arts than he could help. Dumbledore has been a great wizard. Oh, yes, he has. For Bellatrix had made a scathing noise. The Dark Lord acknowledges it. I am pleased to say, however, that Dumbledore is growing old. The duel with the Dark Lord last month shook him. He has since sustained a serious injury because his reactions are slower than they once were. But through all these years, he has never stopped trusting Severus Snape, and therein lies my great value to the Dark Lord. Bellatrix still looked unhappy, though she appeared unsure how best to attack Snape next. Taking advantage of her silence, Snape turned to his sister. Now, you came to ask me for help, Narcissa. Narcissa looked up at him, her face eloquent with despair. Yes, Severus, I think you are the only one who can help me. I have nowhere else to turn. Lucius is in jail and... She closed her eyes, and 2 large tears seeped from beneath her eyelids. The Dark Lord has forbidden me to speak of it, Narcissa continued, her eyes still closed. He wishes none to know of the plan. It is very secret, but... If he has forbidden it, you ought not to speak, said Snape at once. The Dark Lord's word is law. Narcissa gasped as though he had doused her with cold water. Bellatrix looked satisfied for the first time since she'd entered the house. There, she said triumphantly to her sister. Even Snape says so. You were told not to talk, so hold your silence. But Snape had gotten to his feet and strolled to the small window, peered through the curtains at the deserted street, then closed them again with a jerk. He turned round to face Narcissa, frowning. It so happens that I know of the plan, he said in a low voice. I am one of the few the Dark Lord has told. Nevertheless, had I not been in on the secret, Narcissa, you would have been guilty of great treachery to the Dark Lord. I thought you must know about it, said Narcissa, breathing more freely. He trusts you so, Severus. You know about the plan? Said Bellatrix, her fleeting expression of satisfaction replaced by a look of outrage. You know? Certainly, said Snape. But what help do you require, Narcissa? If you're imagining I can persuade the Dark Lord to change his mind, I am afraid there is no hope. None at all. Severus, she whispered, tears sliding down her pale cheeks. My son. My only son. Draco should be proud, said Bellatrix indifferently. The Dark Lord is granting him a great honor, and I will say this for Draco. He isn't shrieking away from his duty. He seems glad of a chance to prove himself, excited at the prospect. Narcissa began to cry in earnest, gazing beseechingly all the while at Snape. That's because he is 16 and he has no idea what lies in store. Why, Severus? Why my son? It is too dangerous. This is vengeance for Lucius's mistake, I know it. Snape said nothing. He looked away from the sight of her tears as though they were indecent, but he could not pretend not to hear her. That's why he's chosen Draco, isn't it? She persisted. To punish Lucius? If Draco succeeds, said Snape, still looking away from her, he will be honoured above all others. But he won't succeed, sobbed Narcissa. How can he, when the Dark Lord himself... Bellatrix gasped. Narcissa seemed to have lost her nerve. I only meant that nobody has yet succeeded. Severus, please. You always have been Draco's favourite teacher. You are Lucius's old friend. I beg you. You are the Dark Lord's favourite, his most trusted adviser. Will you speak to him? Persuade him? The Dark Lord will not be persuaded, and I am not stupid enough to attempt it, said Snape flatly. I cannot pretend that the Dark Lord is not angry with Lucius. Lucius was supposed to be in charge. He got himself captured along with how many others, and failed to retrieve the prophecy into the bargain. Yes, the Dark Lord is angry, Narcissa. Very angry indeed. Then I am right. He's chosen Draco in revenge, choked Narcissa. He does not mean him to succeed. He wants him to be killed trying. When Snape said nothing, Narcissa seemed to lose what little self-restraint she still possessed. Standing up, she staggered to Snape and seized the front of his robes. Her face close to his, her tears falling onto his chest, she gasped. You could do it. You could do it instead of Draco, Severus. You could succeed, of course you could, and he would reward you beyond all of us. Snape caught hold of her wrists and removed her clutching hands. Looking down into her tear-stained face, he said slowly, He intends me to do it in the end, I think, but he is determined that Draco should try first. You see, in the unlikely event that Draco succeeds, I shall be able to remain at Hogwarts a little longer, fulfilling my useful role as spy. In other words, it doesn't matter to him if Draco is killed. The Dark Lord is very angry, repeated Snape quietly. He failed to hear the prophecy. You know as well as I do, Narcissa, that he does not forgive easily. She crumpled, falling at his feet, sobbing and moaning on the floor. My only son! My only son! You should be proud, said Bellatrix ruthlessly. If I had sons, I would gladly give them up to the service of the Dark Lord. Narcissa gave a little scream of despair and clutched at her long blonde hair. Snape stood, seized her by the arms, lifted her up and steered her back onto the sofa. He then poured her more wine and forced the glass into her hand. Narcissa, that's enough. Drink this. Listen to me. She quieted a little, slopping wine down herself. She took a shaky sip. It might be possible for me to help, Draco. She sat up, her face paper white, her eyes huge. Severus, oh, Severus, you would help him? Would you look after him, see that he comes to no harm? I can try. She flung away her glass. It skidded across the table as she slid off the sofa into a kneeling position at Snape's feet, seized his hand in both of hers and pressed her lips to it. If you are there to protect him, Severus, will you swear it? Will you make the unbreakable vow? The unbreakable vow? Snape's expression was blank, unreadable. Bellatrix, however, let out a cackle of triumphant laughter. Aren't you listening, Narcissa? Oh, he'll try, I am sure. The usual empty words, the usual slithering out of action. Oh, on the Dark Lord's orders, of course. Snape did not look at Bellatrix. His black eyes were fixed upon Narcissa's tear-filled blue ones as she continued to clutch his hand. Certainly, Narcissa. I shall make the unbreakable vow, he said quietly. Perhaps your sister will consent to be our bonder. Bellatrix's mouth fell open. Snape lowered himself so that he was kneeling opposite Narcissa. Beneath Bellatrix's astonished gaze, they grasped right hands. You will need your wand, Bellatrix, said Snape coldly. She drew it, still looking astonished. And you will need to move a little closer, he said. She stepped forward so that she stood over them and placed the tip of her wand on their linked hands. Narcissa spoke. Will you, Severus, watch over my son Draco as he attempts to fulfill the Dark Lord's wishes? I will, said Snape. A thin tongue of brilliant flame issued from the wand and wound its way round their hands like a red-hot wire. And will you, to the best of your ability, protect him from harm? I will, said Snape. A second tongue of flame shot from the wand and interleaked with the first, making a fine glowing chain. And, should it prove necessary, if it seems Draco will fail, whispered Narcissa. Snape's hand twitched within theirs, but he did not throw it away. Will you carry out the deed that the Dark Lord has ordered Draco to perform? There was a moment's silence. Bellatrix watched, her hand upon their clasped hands, her eyes wide. I will, said Snape. Bellatrix's astounded face glowed red in the blaze of a third tongue of flame, which shot from the wand, twisted with the others, and bound itself thickly around their clasped hands, like a rope, like a fiery snake.
The downfall of Severus Snape begins.
I have had so many thoughts running through my head through this chapter, just like the parallels to chapter 2, book 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Narcissa and Snape are kind of like Harry and Dobby, where Dobby is like begging Harry not to go back to school.
Yeah, kind of.
There's a little bit of that going on.
Which, before we get into that, I do want to touch on something we're talking about here in the chat, is whether Bellatrix loves anyone besides Voldemort. And I think...
Don't think she loves Rudolphus.
And it's Anna who said it. I think she cares about members of her family to a degree, but she's also crazy. 100%. And I think this chapter shows that, because she is going, like, kind of against the Dark Lord's wishes to kind of protect her sister here.
I think Bellatrix... I don't think... Rudolphus is her husband. Rudolphus Lestrange is her husband.
Yeah, I still don't think
what do they call him in that one podcast I listened to? The cuckold Rudolphus. I think Bellatrix is actually very intensely emotional, which contradicts Voldemort. I think she loves her family. I think she loves her sister. I think she actually does love Draco. I do think she does to a certain extent. She loves Voldemort, but I think she's so warped and twisted.
That's what I mean. I think she does love her family. I think she loves Narcissa, Draco, maybe Lucius.
But I think she's so radicalized that if you cross those boundaries of what she sees as right and wrong, because she's been so radicalized by Voldemort, that once you cross that, it's over. It's done. You know, like Sirius, her other sister, Andromeda, Tonks, etc.
Yeah, but I feel like Narcissa's a little different.
No, he did go to Azkaban, but he didn't die there. He is legit still alive throughout this entire series, which is kind of what makes it really funny.
Who, Rudolphus?
Yeah, he's there the whole time.
Oh, you just never hear about him.
He's there. Like, you hear about him, like, here and there. So, like, when Bellatrix is like at the table going like, oh, the Dark Lord, oh. Like, he's in the room. It's awkward. Yeah, that's what's great about it, is like he's there for all of this stuff. And it's just, yeah.
What's he gonna do? Fight Voldemort?
Like, right, like what are you gonna do? This last bit of this chapter also just got me thinking about when Narcissa is like pleading with Snape to help her save her son. Mm-hmm. How do you think that feels for Snape? It's very... Narcissa's whole thing with Draco is very much a parallel to Lily and Harry. Mm-hmm. He's my son. He's my only son. Help save him. Help protect him. Is this in some way Snape potentially like the parallel is there? It's not lost on him, and it's got to be very painful.
I don't think there's any deep meaning. I think he's just doing it because he has to.
I don't think
so.
To maintain
his cover.
I think it's gotta hit somewhere in there. It's not lost on him. You know it's not. And you know Dumbledore talked to him about it off page.
You know Dumbledore helped him with all those excuses. The answers to all those questions. You know Dumbledore had a hand in that.
Well, yeah.
When they ask you this, tell them this.
But we also know, at this point, upon a reread, we also know with Bellatrix asking him all these questions, like, we know she is also skilled with occlumency and potentially legilimency. So she might be trying to use it on him right now, asking him all these questions.
But we know Snape's the best.
Snape is the best.
I will give Snape that.
He's the best.
Because he protects himself against Voldemort. And he even says, you know, praising Voldemort, the best legilimens in the world.
He
allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah. Snape's the best.
It's like the best thief in the world is the one you've never heard of.
Right? I do have to pee real quick. I'm sorry. I wanted to finish the chapter, but I just had to throw that stuff out there about Lily and the parallels between Narcissa and Draco and Lily and Harry and Snape being in that position. It just, geez, man. Jeez. And then the chapter 2, book 2 parallels of like Dobby and Harry, and it's kind of like Narcissa and Harry. And I guess Bellatrix is like Uncle Vernon in this situation, I guess. I don't know.
No, Snape was.
No, Snape's Harry.
Snape's the one who tells Wormtail to go to his room, though. That's what Vernon does.
I know, but then later it turns into Narcissa begging Snape to do something. And Snape being like, look,
Well, wait till you get back, because I can't hear what you're saying. But yeah, Snape plays 2 roles in this play here. Had to hold my tongue, keep it family friendly with Rudolphus, Voldy, and Bella in the same room. I couldn't imagine. It's a bit much for him. Oh, 100% Anna. I think that's why nothing ever happens. I think he knows that he can use Bellatrix, but at the same time, I think there's a level of just being creeped out. I think Bellatrix, you know, creeps Voldemort out at times, where he's just like, oh, God, that you're going a little far there, Bella. Let's calm down. Snape had said, I'm telling the Dark Lord Bellatrix would have killed Narcissa right then and there rather than fall from favor. See, I think it's like a 50-50 shot, to be honest, Tom. Like, I really don't know what way that would go. I think it would genuinely be a hard decision for Bellatrix to choose. And it's very likely that she would, but I don't know. It's hard.
Voldemort, Bellatrix is so mind warped by Voldemort that if Voldemort said Narcissa is a traitor and she betrayed everything and blah blah blah, like, I think she would struggle, but I think she would still do it, because if the Dark Lord says Narcissa betrayed us, blah blah blah, she's so radicalized that she would do it. I think she would do it.
I can't choose one way or another. I don't know. Like I said, it's a 50-50 shot.
I think she would do it. I think she might struggle with it a little bit, but I think
depends on the day.
Why is Bellatrix the way she is?
There's pieces throughout the series, but I've never pieced it together in my mind. I don't think it ever gives us enough evidence to come up with like a clear picture of why Bellatrix is the way she is, to be honest.
We don't know enough about her backstory, but I think we can like piece some of it together. Like, pure blood mania household, she drank it hook, line, and sinker. Like, she knew Voldemort when he was like still young and handsome and manipulative, and he probably just manipulated the shit out of her and radicalized her. Plus, she's also a product of like centuries of close intermarriage and other stuff, so she might not have been the most stable person to begin with. So she's
inbred. Question answered.
She is. Well, they all are, to a degree.
Well, yeah. I mean, we know that any of the pure blood families, you got that going on.
I think that is a great topic of discussion. Bellatrix. Why is she the way she is? I'm very oversimplifying, but I think if we actually looked at the books, we could probably get bits and pieces to kind of piece together what her deal is.
Maybe you could piece together like what is
or at least
wrong
a theory of what her deal is, because she really is an interesting character when you look at her.
Mm-hmm.
She's
like
total evil, but she's also very fierce, very passionate, very strong.
Right? Like, was she always evil, or was she like a Harley Quinn character? She got pushed into a vat of acid and came out the way she is. Type thing.
Harley Quinn never got pushed into a vat of acid.
That was like her origin story.
No, it's not.
What's her origin story then?
Her origin story is that she was a psychiatrist.
Yeah, she was a psychiatrist, and she was working with the Joker.
Right, and he radicalized her, and that was it.
And he throws her in like a vat of chemicals.
No, he doesn't. He literally...
I gotta Google this.
No.
Go on. So we don't get too off topic. I'm just gonna look it up so we can have the answer to this.
I don't think she was with Voldy at school. She's like 10 years older than Sirius, but even still she wouldn't have been at school with Voldemort. Either way though, like this chapter, when you go back and you reread this and you see everything that Snape is doing, yeah, Voldemort is like 20. Yeah, he's like at least 20 years older. I know that if I remember correctly, it's Bella is the oldest, and then it's Andromeda, and then it's Narcissa. And Bellatrix is like 10 years older than Sirius. So even if she's 10 years older than Sirius, she still wouldn't have been at school with Voldemort. No, I think she was radicalized like in her youth. Not when she was a kid, but like as an adult. But Lucius was also in school at the same time as Snape. So Lucius was a prefect in Snape's first year. So Lucius was at least a 5th year when Snape and etc. started. We don't know how old these people are, so it's kind of hard to place. But either way, Bellatrix was too young to go to school with Voldemort. We know that.
Yeah, Bellatrix. Well, we see her in All the Young Dudes, so she went to school in like the 70s, and then
that's not canon.
No, but it still adds up, doesn't it?
No, that actually doesn't, because Bellatrix is like legit 10 years older than Sirius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
That makes sense. Right. The fact that Bellatrix was in the story and All the Young Dudes doesn't follow the timeline. I think the author just put her in there to put her in there for drama purposes. Yeah, that would make Voldemort like 25 years older.
All right, so Harley Quinn has like multiple backstories. One of them is she's dumped into a vat of acid. There's another one where the Joker injects her with serum. So there's multiple ways.
That's what I don't like about comic books. There's all this multiverse stuff that's just like, well, this origin story, according to this origin story, according to this origin story. Like, there's always like a million of them. Well, I don't like the vat of acid idea, and I don't like the injection idea either. I like the plain old, she got manipulated and radicalized.
Well, no, that's how they all start. Was like how she got like her powers and stuff.
Oh.
Like like it's all around. She was a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Working with the Joker. Fell in love with the Joker.
Yeah, because he
fed her. He did some chemical stuff to her after he gained her trust. Was the big thing.
Either way.
All right. What were we talking about?
I was going to talk about Snape, but we went talking about Bellatrix for a hot minute. Still talking about Bellatrix. Oh no, do I have to see?
So she was born in 1951 when Voldemort was about 25 years old. Jesus. Talk about robbing the cradle.
He didn't do anything with Bellatrix.
That we know of.
It doesn't fit his MO and his personality.
It would fit if it means like seducing her and bringing her over to his side.
I don't think he would have actually done anything with her, though.
You don't know that.
Yeah, I do, because it's not Voldemort. Voldemort would not be physically intimate with anyone. He has no interest in
So what you're saying is Voldemort's a virgin.
Could be.
Oh. That's a new theory now.
That's what I think. He was too narcissistic. He's too disconnected from humanity to even desire any physical interaction.
I don't think he desires it, but I think he would use that as a way to get what he wants.
I don't think so.
Believe that Voldy remained a virgin all his life. I mean, maybe. The cursed child begs to differ.
The cursed child is not canon. It's not canon.
Technically is, because it was written by Rowling herself.
It was not written by her. She didn't write it.
You sure about that?
The two guys wrote it. They wrote the script.
Didn't she approve it, though?
She consulted with them about it.
It's canon.
It's not canon. She didn't write it. It's not canon. It is not a part of the 7 novels. It is not canon.
His getting off is the power rush he feels when doing something powerful, killing. I mean, yes, I do agree.
Well, you know my theory about how Horcruxes are made. If anyone has watched this channel for a hot second, I have a theory about what I think is involved in making Horcruxes. And I think the only way that I don't think he gets off on power. I mean, to a degree, he gets off on power, but I think he gets off on inflicting suffering and pain. That's what I think Voldemort gets off on, if we're going to get off on anything, which ties into how you make Horcruxes.
Yeah, and you should just make a video on that.
I should make a video about how Horcruxes are made, because I think it is the most... It's the explanation that makes the most sense, given who Voldemort is.
Oh my god, Katie. I have a theory that making Horcruxes lost him more than just his nose.
I would agree with that. I would think he wouldn't even care about losing it. He wouldn't even care. Because it's a human thing. It's very human to have that desire, that instinct, and he wants nothing to do with it, so he wouldn't even care.
No, I agree. I don't think he was doing it for, like, a desire other than how can I get Bellatrix to do whatever I say.
But I don't think he'd have to go that far.
You don't know. We only see her now. We didn't see the whole process of radicalizing
Oh,
her.
no. I think she probably... Right. It would just get in the way. His having those desires he would see as just being like an annoyance that he needs to get rid of. I don't think he would have had to try that hard. I think Bellatrix would have just looked at him and thought, oh my god, he's so handsome. And that would have been it. And then Voldemort would have just had to say some shit.
You like killing people? I like killing people. Oh my god, this is crazy. And, you know, that's about it.
For Voldemort, having a dick is actually just like an inconvenience.
Then they went skipping through a field of flowers, killing foxes.
I do feel really bad for the fox in this chapter. I'm just like, oh, he's a skinny little man. He's hungry. He's looking through the garbage. Oh my god. And Bellatrix just like kills him. I feel bad for that little guy.
I know. He was doing nothing wrong.
Phoenix song for the little fox in this chapter.
It also says that he yelped, meaning that he must have felt something as he died. But they've described the killing curse as you're just dead. You feel nothing. But
maybe it was a yelp of surprise.
Maybe.
Either way, that poor little guy. That poor little fox. Does Voldemort even need to go to the loo? Asking the real questions. What if Voldemort just like doesn't go to the loo? Well, no, because Voldemort must eat. He must have to eat.
Does he?
But I don't know. We never see Voldemort eating anything. You know what?
Unicorn's blood.
While I'm on the... You know what, Katie? You actually bring up an interesting thing. You know how Rowling is always talking about the importance of food and how it brings people together, and like all these chapters where they talk about the food and it's all just like so welcoming and comfortable and everything else. And you never see Voldemort eat anything. Maybe he doesn't need to eat or poop or pee.
I mean, maybe when he came back, he no longer needed that. He was just a magical being.
Like, maybe part of the magic of regaining his body is that he's lost so much humanity that he doesn't even need to eat anymore.
Maybe.
Maybe it's more akin to like a ghost-like existence. Like, he doesn't need to eat.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we really don't ever hear about it.
Tom, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is also very much not canon. I don't even think the movies are canon. Okay? The Harry Potter movies are not canon.
That's right. Wormtail does have to milk Nagini to feed Voldemort, so we do know he drinks snake milk.
Does he still consume Nagini venom?
Maybe.
Like, maybe he does, but he doesn't need to, like, excrete it in any way. Maybe it just, like, maintains him.
No. I think Voldemort poops.
You think Voldemort poops?
I think he poops.
But then if he poops, then he probably pees.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't have a pee-pee, how does he pee?
Just comes out.
Where?
He still has a urethra.
How do we know?
How did eunuchs pee?
They still have a penis. They just don't have balls.
Not in some cases.
But you just have like a little... Before the movies, did you imagine Voldemort wearing shoes? It's never mentioned in the books that he's barefoot, but I can't imagine shoes. I never imagined Voldemort wearing shoes. I always just imagined him like just covered up in this big black robe. But like I also can't picture Voldemort wearing shoes. I just never thought about Voldemort's feet at all. I just figured whatever he's got going on is under the robe. And I never thought about shoes or not shoes with Voldemort.
Crocs under the robe. Yes. That's now canon in my head.
Voldemort wears Crocs.
Crocs and socks.
Under the robe.
Yeah. It's got to be comfy.
No heeled boots like Dumbledore. Voldemort doesn't have that kind of style.
Maybe Heelys. That way he can get that ghostly glide in. Look, guys, I'm flying.
He would never wear shoes like Dumbledore. He's not that cool.
Someone needs to write the reverse fan fiction that we were talking about the one time. Like, flip-flop the story. Harry's evil, Dumbledore's evil, Voldemort's good, and everything. Draco's the good guy.
Yeah. Crocs in sport mode when he flies. Rollerblades. Rollerblades. I'm picturing it in my head and I like it. Voldemort. I'm just picturing Voldemort like rollerblading around the graveyard trying to catch Harry.
I could legitimately just picture Dumbledore in Heelys, though.
Oh,
Have you
Dumbledore.
found out about Heelys?
Yeah, Dumbledore would wear them.
Just
He'd be like,
Dumbledore
look, Severus, watch. Down the hallway. Like, Dumbledore would love him. Yeah, Dumbledore would be all about it.
Feet going too far when talking about Voldemort's appendages.
I mean, Voldemort's penis makes me less uncomfortable than Voldemort's feet. I'm just saying. Feet are gross, okay? I'm sorry. They're disgusting.
Maybe they look like kangaroo feet.
Voldemort's feet?
Just one big toe.
Kangaroos have 4 toes.
It looks like, but they just have the one big toe on
the bottom. They do have the one big toe. Oh my god, no! Voldemort can't have kangaroo feet. I won't be able to cope with that. Kangaroos do have 4 toes, though. On all seriousness, they have 4 toes.
You're an artist. Why have you not done this yet?
What, kangaroo foot Voldemort?
Just do the feet of Voldemort or something.
I don't like feet! Why would I do that?
It doesn't have to be gross either. I mean, you could just do something cute. Just give him, like, cat feet.
Oh my god, Voldemort has toe beans.
Just Bellatrix.
Got cat feet.
You can just do, like, Bellatrix just rubbing the toe beans.
Look at them beans! He probably does have really long toenails, and I hate it, and I don't want to think about it. I'd rather think about him having kangaroo feet, honestly. Kangaroo feet are cute, at least.
Look like orc feet.
What, Voldemort feet?
Yeah. Zabini.
You know, kangaroo feet are like as long as my leg.
makes Lucius paint them to torture him.
He's got to file them. He makes them file them.
Lucius, I need another coat. Oh, yeah.
Some of the kangaroos have feet that are as long as my arm.
That's weird.
I'm just saying.
But I feel like before we got on this topic, you said you wanted to talk about something dealing with Snape.
I mentioned it before.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and then we all just kind of went over it to talk about Voldemort's dick and his feet.
I mean, these are questions that need to be answered.
Apparently. What did I say before? I said,
Snape.
No, it's okay, Katie.
Snape.
Severus It was Snape. About the fact that here Snape is once again in a position where you have a mother desperately trying to protect her son from Voldemort.
Mm-hmm. And someone listening at the door.
And just, yeah, the parallels between Snape, Lily, and Harry, and now Snape, Narcissa, and Draco. And how must that play out in Snape's brain, and how that all works out, and how just bananas it is. Because he is actually able to successfully protect Draco.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he protects Harry too, but initially, like if you're taking it at face value, like initially when Snape heard the prophecy and tried to protect Lily, it didn't work out. Harry lived, but it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But now you have a mother coming directly to him begging for that protection. And just how must that feel for Snape? Like, how much must the agony of that for Snape must be incredible.
No, I could definitely see it.
I asked a question: does Voldemort not trust Snape completely here? Is Wormtail listening at the door on his orders?
I don't think Voldemort trusts him completely.
I think Anna's right. I don't think Voldemort trusts anyone 100%.
That, but also it kind of sounds like none of the Death Eaters, anyone in this little cult, trusts Snape. Snape specifically.
I feel like within the Death Eater unit, I don't think that anyone really trusts anyone 100%, which is what makes the Order stronger, because they all do trust each other and they're not all trying to one-up each other for Voldemort's favor. I think on the Voldemort side, everyone is power hungry and they're all trying to one-up each other for Voldemort's favor, so they're all stabbing each other in the back. Like, I don't think anyone trusts anyone, even Voldemort. Like, I think Voldemort feels that Snape is his, most trustworthy lieutenant, especially like at the end of this book. But I think it's still so new and whatever. I don't think I don't think Voldemort trusts anyone. I don't even think he fully trusts Bellatrix. Like, I just don't think he trusts anyone. Which is the difference, another fundamental difference between him and Harry. Harry learns to trust implicitly in his friends and his comrades. Voldemort never learns that.
Well, it's easy when you got friends.
But according, Dumbledore said he's never had a friend, nor has he ever felt he wanted one. He didn't even want friends.
Well, we see the power of friendship in this. This is like an episode of My Little Pony.
Yeah, Snape's memories. Dumbledore and Snape talked about Dumbledore killing him before Narcissa even comes to his house. So Snape is already ready for this.
That's fair. Dumbledore predicting it.
Well, in this chapter, it's true, because in this chapter, Snape says Dumbledore has sustained an injury. or whatever. Like, that fight took a lot out of him, and Dumbledore isn't as quick as he was. And, like, that's Snape talking about, like, his hand.
Yeah.
But without really going into detail. So you know, upon a reread, that he's already done this shit to his hand. And therefore, he and Snape have already had that conversation about Snape killing him. Like, Snape is already preparing to kill him.
Yeah. So I guess it's easy enough, you know.
To just
You're
do
gonna
it.
have to kill me. Oh, and you also have to make this unbreakable vow that you're gonna kill me if Draco doesn't. Bet.
Ooh, sorry.
I wonder, had that not happened, do you think Snape would have made the unbreakable vow there?
Had that conversation?
Yeah, had he not already planned on killing Dumbledore? Do you think he would have?
I think he would have had to, and then he would have gone to Dumbledore and said, "This just happened, by the way, FYI." Like, I don't think how would he have gotten out of it?
Die? Like, that's the only way. Just like, Dumbledore, I'm gonna go jump off a bridge real quick.
Snape wouldn't do that. That's not his nature. He'd report it back to Dumbledore. Like, if say Dumbledore hadn't done that shit to his hand and they hadn't had that conversation, but then they show up at Snape's house, like, I think he would have had to do it. I don't know how he would have gotten out of it, and then he would have had to come back to Dumbledore and say, "Hey, I had to do this." And then, yep, Katie says Dumbledore would have sacrificed himself for the greater good.
Probably.
Because the plan probably would have still stayed the same, even if Dumbledore wasn't gonna die.
Yeah.
So he would have just said, "All right, well, you're just gonna have to kill me anyway." And I feel like Dumbledore, at this point, was pretty at peace with his life. Would have been fine with it.
Maybe. Still feel like he would have gotten a little snarky comment. Well, I guess you'll have to kill me. If you can.
Oh, yeah, he would have been sassy about it. He could have been sassy about it, for sure.
Gotta make it easier, you know,
Well,
piss
yeah,
him off so
Dumbledore.
it's easier to kill him. I think Voldemort would see Wormtail easier to control and so on. Trust weaker than Snape or Bella. 100%, but I mean, we learn real quick that he had no trust in Wormtail because the hand, you know, kills him. He had no trust. Like, he set a trap for him.
Oh, yeah. Voldemort 100% doesn't trust Wormtail. Voldemort 100% didn't trust Wormtail even after Wormtail betrayed the Potters. You're never going to trust someone who betrayed someone else for you. Once a traitor, always a traitor. Even if that person came to your fold, they betrayed someone else. I'm never going to trust that person.
Oh, yeah.
So Voldemort was never going to trust Wormtail. Even after he gave up the Potters, he was never going to trust him remotely as much as he trusts, like, Snape or Bellatrix or whoever. By virtue of the reason why Wormtail came into the fold, he would never. And to Voldemort, betrayal is, I think, one of the worst things you could possibly do. So even though Wormtail betrayed the Potters to help Voldemort, I still think that Voldemort sees him as, like, the absolute scum of the earth because he's a traitor. Even though that betrayal was in his favor, he's still a traitor. He's a scum.
Which is ironic considering Voldemort, like, betrayed Dumbledore's trust first thing. It's only vile if it's against Voldemort. Dumbledore sees Snape as more important as he's in Voldemort's inner circle. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Dumbledore would have pretty much seen Snape as, like, the key to the whole thing. Because Snape is the key to the entire thing. He did, but he also spent a year with Harry trying to train Harry and teach Harry how to do the thing, how to think like Voldemort. And in the end, all that training proves to be correct because Harry does learn to think like Voldemort and figure it all out.
Wait, what are we talking about? When does he think like Voldemort?
He also had to put a lot of trust in the kids to figure out the Horcruxes. Dumbledore.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, you get a third of the way through Hallows, and Harry is like, I think we need to go to Hogwarts. I think there's a Horcrux at Hogwarts. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But it just proves to show that Harry really does know Voldemort and understands how to think like him, because the final Horcrux ends up actually being at Hogwarts. Yeah, Snape is an only child.
All right. Sorry, my mic was just being weird. It's saying that there's like left and right audio when it should be mono. Snape's an only child. Yep, Snape was an only child. He had an abusive father. Was the mother involved? Did he have a mother?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he had a mother, but was she around?
Yeah.
She was?
She's mentioned in the book.
Okay, I don't remember that.
Half-Blood Prince. She's mentioned in the book.
Maybe if he had a brother or, you know, an older cousin who beat him up, maybe he wouldn't have turned out so bad. He just needed a Dudley in his life to put him in his place. I thought I would get a reaction out of that, but nope. Was a witch and his father was a muggle. Okay.
Tobias Snape and Eileen Prince. Those are his parents.
Wonder if Snape would have been a good father. Nah. Probably not. Yeah, his father was abusive to both of them. I don't see Snape being like a good dad, to be honest. Like the way he treats the kids at school and everything. There's just no way. No way. He would have been a better father than his own father, at least. Yeah, I will give him that. He probably would have been. How much better? This is up for debate. Asked Neville. He would have been a good father if his child was good at potions. If they weren't, they're out. Kicked out. Orphanage for you. And then you have a Voldemort. Yeah, emotionally and verbal, I could definitely see. I feel like he would tolerate them. I think that's all he could do. He isn't mean to Draco. That's true. But that comes down to Draco kind of well, I guess he can't really be mean to Draco, but I think Draco also fits the mold of, you know, he's good at potions and stuff.
I think, given Snape's state in the 7 books, I don't think he would be capable of being a father.
Really? Even you don't think he'd make a good dad?
He's so broken. He would need to heal first before he could even think about that.
I don't think he's ever going to heal. It's like 20 years.
Well, I mean, he... It would also depend on, like, his... I think a lot would depend on how much he could heal. Who is his partner?
Trelawney.
No. Absolutely not.
Trelawney and Snape, the power couple.
No, I refuse.
Oh, yeah.
No. Ew. Ew, no. He could not tolerate her for more than, like, 5 minutes.
You never know.
No.
Opposites attract.
No.
Ron couldn't tolerate Hermione for more than 5 minutes when they first met.
They complement each other. Trelawney and Snape do not complement each other at all. Not even a little bit. No.
I mean, we'll never know. He's dead, so.
Ow.
And that's how you end a conversation. Without lots of therapy, I think it would be hard for him to be in a healthy relationship of any kind. 100%.
Yeah. He's so broken. Put these books back. Yeah. All right, we got dead air happening right now.
I'm trying to fix my mic because it looks weird. Does my mic sound weird on the stream? Because it's supposed to be coming across as mono, and it looks like it's just coming out of the left ear right now. But no, go on. What else did you want to talk about?
Nothing.
That's really all you have for this chapter?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's all I got.
Not weird for me, but I'm listening on my phone. Fair enough.
I don't have much. It's a good chapter.
Dumbledore headmaster when Lily and Snape were in school? I don't think so.
No.
I think Dumbledore would have been the transfiguration professor at that point.
No, he would have been headmaster because McGonagall has been teaching transfiguration for like 30, 40 years.
Okay, and that answers that question.
Yeah.
All right, so we did...
I was severely underwhelmed by the movie adaptation of this chapter. I did not like it.
I feel like you were severely underwhelmed about everything with the movies, though.
Half-Blood Prince is legit the worst movie in the entire series. I have no good things to say about that movie. Never mind. I take it back. Slughorn was like okay.
I was going to say, was it the worst, or was it because Half-Blood Prince is like your favorite book?
Half-Blood Prince is not my favorite book.
I swear to God, it changes every other day.
I said at the beginning of the stream that Hallows is my favorite book.
Oh,
it's been Hallows since we started this channel.
I remember now. It's just that I wasn't listening in the beginning.
Yeah. So. Half-Blood Prince is the worst movie. Because it's the worst movie.
Speaking of Dead Air.
Closely followed by Goblet of Fire. Right, Katie? Biggs always asks this question. She's like, Biggs, you always ask this question. Isn't Half-Blood Prince your favorite book?
I do. Yeah, One of these times I will remember.
I swear to God.
One of these times.
Worst movie, Half-Blood Prince, closely followed by Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, anything with Ginny and Harry in it
is
together.
So cringy. So bad. So uncomfortable.
Sometimes things are so cringy they're good.
Like The Office. That was just so The Office is so cringy that sometimes that it's just so funny because it's supposed to be cringy and terrible. But that was not it. Also, the burrow burning down. Right. They burned down the burrow in that movie.
Yeah, and there was like no need for it.
Right.
Like, why you gotta burn down the burrow? Why you gotta do the Weasleys like that? You don't. But you did anyways.
No reason. And then nothing coming back about how they are like rebuilding their house or anything. Literally no reason for that house to burn down. At all.
Well, I mean, it's probably underwhelming. What is it? Reparo. New house.
Maybe not if it was burned down by magic.
That's not a question for me. I don't know.
Depending on the type of magic that was used to burn the house down, they might not just be able to just do reparo.
You know, you never know. You never know.
Either way, it was stupid and unnecessary.
I did want to ask. We were talking about maybe playing some Legacy. Are you down for that?
If you want to play some Legacy, you can play while I eat. And I might have some things to say in between.
I mean, it's up to you.
I don't care either way. I just know that it's almost 7:30, so I do need to eat and go to bed kind of soon.
Okay. Then we'll call it there. I mean, if you got to go to bed and everything.
Well, I mean, yeah, because like 8 o'clock, 8:30 is like when I want to be in bed.
That's fair.
So, is it just a Hut in 7 Part 1? I haven't watched 7 Part 1 enough times.
I want to go back and look now.
I feel like least favorite movies, it's 6, 4... between 5 and 7 Part 2. 3, 7 Part 1, 2, and then 1, maybe. If I think about the movies in order from worst to best for me. I'm not sure. Yeah, right? It burns down and then no one ever talks about it. Ever again. It's just not mentioned at all.
Well, that house is done. Time to build a new one.
Harry's home away from home for an entire series where there's cooking and food and Weasley love and just burn it down. I'll never talk about it again. It's fine. No one cares.
Right, it didn't even have like any emotional impact because they didn't really emphasize it at all.
No.
But yeah, this was fun. Thank you for dropping in, Amber.
Yes. Thank you for popping in, Amber. Appreciate it.
And we'll be back again Thursday with maybe House of Gaunt? Or are you just like, nah?
I don't think I'm going to be ready.
All right. So
I don't think I'm going to be ready.
Leave any chapter suggestions down below in the comments. Unless you have any ideas.
I am open to doing anything.
Okay.
I'm open to doing anything. I'm going to keep working on House of Gaunt. I just don't know if I'll be ready in time. So I don't want to promise something that I can't potentially keep.
Fair enough.
So please put your suggestions out there, chapter recaps, chapter rereads, or if you want us to do something different, let us know.
And we will see you next Thursday. You guys have a great night.
Just unboxed 2 mugs, new and older. Pretty sick. Oh my gosh!
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome! Thank you for buying some mugs. Very cool. Thank you so much.
Hope you enjoy them. I really enjoy them.
Super happy you like the designs. Thank you for supporting us, Hannah.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.